This is our home-built HAMB Dragster or hamster, affectionately known as the Grey Ghost. A hamster is a drag racing class that runs under the HAGR designation. It has been created to emulate how the pioneers of hot rodding started the sport of drag racing. The class focuses on the use of engines from a bygone era with camaraderie and hot rod spirit at its core. A lot of thought has gone into the guidelines of the class to allow the cars to be competitive without being excessively expensive or losing sight of the goal. That is to represent the nostalgic element of our hot rod heritage and the sport of drag racing.
The Grey Ghost was built with this hot rod heritage and garage spirit at its core. The car was built after a visit to the nostalgia drags at Willowbank with our 3-month-old son and seeing the class in action. The spark that was lit from this visit resulted in a 4-year build done as time and money permitted while our young family grew over those years. With the build taking a back seat to typical family financial commitments, whatever limited budget that was left over went into scrounging swap meets to collect authentic and rare grey motor speed equipment and vintage race parts that were part of the vision for the Grey Ghost. As with budget, the time pressures of work, raising a young family and life in general meant there was limited free time to spend hours in the shed. The Grey Ghost was predominantly built late at night after the kids were sound asleep. Fighting the urge to hit the hay ourselves, once the kids would finally fall asleep, we would head out to the shed to ensure that we would get a little bit done each night. Each item crossed off the list brought us a step closer to seeing the Grey Ghost come to life and develop into the car that it is today.
In terms of authenticity, the car is one of a kind and was built with a mishmash of rare vintage Australian speed equipment and parts that were collected from swap meets and ownership of various early Holdens over the years. The fuel tank is an old truck air tank from a swap meet that has been modified and heavily polished to replicate a moon tank that is synonymous with dragsters of an early era. The radiator cowl is again a swap meet special, real steel deal from a Model T Ford. The chassis is based off a Model T Ford but is constructed from 2x3 steel for strength and safety. The front end is an early Ford dropped beam axle and the differential comes from an 80s model Toyota Hilux with 4.1 gears and a full spool. The gearbox is a steel case W40 4-speed Toyota manual transmission shifted with a cube speed short shifter that sits between the driver's legs. Brakes are the rear drum brakes from the Hilux, no front brakes, and steering is done by an inverted Suzuki Sierra box. The wheels are again swap meet finds. The front wheels are 16-inch 1935 Ford wheels that have been modified with later model Falcon centers. The rear wheels are 1934 Ford wheels that have been cut down to 15-inch and widened to 6-inch. Again, the centers have been modified with later model Falcon centers. Class specified bias ply tyres are all used on all 4 corners.
Did you know that this engine comes from a Salt Lake racer called Ute-Zilla?
To us, the heart and soul of the Grey Ghost is its power plant. While researching how to help a Holden grey motor survive being abused on the strip, noting that Holden grey motors were renowned for snapping cranks when pushed hard, a friendship was formed with a greybeard named Lindsay Wilson. Lindsay is one of the founding members of the Dry Lake Racers Association of Australia and campaigned a humpy ute powered by the mighty Holden grey motor in the early days of Lake Gardner, known as Ute-Zilla. As the friendship grew, Lindsay took an increasing interest in what we were building and offered to sell us one of the engines that he campaigned in Ute-Zilla from back in the day. Sadly, due to a hard life on the salt, Ute-Zilla no longer graces our earth with its presence, so to have its heart continue to beat in the Grey Ghost adds to the nostalgia and soul of this car. The 138 cubic inch inline-6 grey motor uses a factory bottom end with main bearing bridges to help support the crank while spinning upwards of 6,000 RPM. Solid lifters, custom chromo push rods and a lumpy custom ground camshaft see the engine make power all the way and beyond the self-imposed 6,000 RPM rev limit. Harmonics are kept at bay with a Ross Full Metal Jacket SFI rated balancer. A heavily ported grey motor head with oversized valves and double valve springs helps move the intake and exhaust charges through the engine. The rocker cover is a Speco number, and the intake is a set of triple Stromberg carbies mounted to a Speco manifold. The exhaust is custom built set of headers, which makes the Grey Ghost sounds like it has a bark that would spook the bravest of souls. The unique note of a screaming, lumpy, historic grey motor truly is a massive feature of what makes the Grey Ghost so special.
The aesthetics of the Grey Ghost were a very important consideration from the start to the finish of the build. Early 50s GM hues were applied to the car, GMH black for the chassis, Ascot grey for the body, and Snowcrest white for the firewall. The constant battle of balancing of form and function has resulted in what we consider to be a car that meets the modern safety requirements of the class, yet pays homage to the early bug-style dragster builds you would see screaming down unused runways on abandoned air bases post-World War II. The final touch of creativity added to the car's appearance and flow was the hand-lettered sign writing that I lovingly yet extremely nervously applied.
Did you know that this race number is Mummy's, and my brother's birthday?
At the time of writing, the Grey Ghost is only 3 meetings old and to date has run a best time of 15.72 at 85.6 miles per hour on the quarter. However, as we learn to tune and drive the car, there is a hell of a lot more potential to further improve the speed and power of the Grey Ghost. There are also a few extra performance modifications in the pipeline.
Seeing the Grey Ghost immortalised as a real-life Hot Wheels car that will inspire young kids, just like our boys, to continue on the historical hot rodding journey started by pioneers of the sport would truly be an absolute dream.